It has been a long time since I've done an opioid story. It's probably been a couple months because I think I did touch on one around the time when quarantine first began, and I haven't touched on one since. But now I have one to touch on thanks to First Them News on Twitter for tagging me in this particular story that is coming out of Ohio, which we all know is the hub for heroin. Now, I'm a pretty much off quote something First Them News said. It's amazing that they talk about all these quote unquote deadly shootings that happen in Chicago, but they're not talking about all these opioid overdoses that have occurred in Ohio, which is like the next state over. Forgive me if my geography is off. Because according to this article coming from 10 TV, there were 15 deadly overdoses within a 72-hour time span. It says Franklin County Coroner Dr. Anahi Ortiz reported Sunday afternoon that there have been 15 deaths from overdoses in 72 hours in the county. Now, it's amazing. Mainstream media will talk about all these major shootings that happen in Chicago, but they'll overlook this, and we know why it is. But the thing is, with these overdose deaths, with these opioids, these are actually very believable. Even when they were really spiraling out of control, they were very believable because we saw videos of people strung out. We saw pictures, people laid out in the street. I mean, talk about straight up Night of the Living Dead mixed with the Walking Dead mixed with the zombies coming out of the grave in the Thriller video, Zombified. That's what we were looking at. Hell, if some of them look like they were off the hills, have eyes, and wrong turn. It says Dr. Ortiz posted the information shortly before 2 p.m. The news comes after she released data from the first quarter of 2020 earlier this month, saying there was a 55% increase in overdose deaths in the county, just in that county, compared to the same time period last year. Dr. Ortiz said in Sunday's post, family and friends of those who use, please check your loved ones and carry naloxone. Now, mind you, we are in the midst of a pandemic. If you mix that with this, recipe for disaster. Now, notice that I was able to pump out these opioid stories more frequently, but when the virus hit, when quarantine happened, they kind of scaled back because, believe it or not, they started to bury a lot of these opioid stories. If you notice, me and Lisa, we was knocking these opioid stories out left and right. We was like tag teaming with this thing. And then eventually we had to do one here, one there. I know she just recently did one. Not the same one I'm doing, but it was a completely different one. But it was along the same lines, just basically saying that the numbers are still climbing up there. They're not really slowing down. But they just don't really talk about it because everybody's so focused on the virus. Now, that's pretty much taking the airways. And even if it wasn't, it still wouldn't be talked about because even before the virus hit, they did their best to bury these opioid stories. Like, they really only got regulated to the internet. And when they tried to get 45 to make it a national emergency, he pretty much dodged it. I bet he wished he was only having to deal with this opioid plague instead of having to deal with this virus right about now. At least that was actually doable and fixable, but he didn't even want to fix that. This guy just loves chaos. But, you know, it is what it is. But if there's any more opioid stories out there, I'll try and find them. Like I said, they pretty much buried a lot of them. Like, there's not many out there floating like there used to be. At one point, when you could go and type opioid in Google search, and a laundry list of opioid stories will pop up. But they're out there. Don't get it twisted. Them people are still overdosing because, you know, they can't go to those safe injection sites right now, you know, social distancing. So now they're probably more strung out than ever. And it's amazing, like I said, that 55% increase this year within that one county in Ohio. I think Ohio might need to change their slogan that has something incorporating of opioids in there somewhere, because they would fit the bill.